Hello sports fans and welcome. My name is Professor S and today we're talking about the assassination of Julius Caesar and the Ides of March. See, when all those other speed-based history review shows come out with their episodes about the history of St. Patrick's Day, we go against the grain. We bring you only the very best and the very latest in stuff that happened more than 2,000 years ago. Either way, when they zig, we zag. So mark well the portents of doom and beware the Ides of March, because it's time for some extra credit. If you've never heard of the Ides of March or even the assassination of Julius Caesar, please let me know, because I will want to write a strongly worded letter to your 11th grade English teacher. See, Shakespeare wrote a play about the assassination of Julius Caesar called Julius Caesar. Now, the play takes some liberties with the actual story, but it's pretty close to what historians believe actually happened. The year is 44 BC, and Rome is still a republic at this point. But the Senate had just voted to make Julius Caesar the dictator perpetuo, which means the dictator in perpetuity, or the permanent dictator. See, back then, the Senate had the power to elect one guy and give him a ton of power. But usually this was to accomplish very specific things, and it was supposed to end after a very specific amount of time. See, before any of this even happened, Caesar was a big-shot military commander. He had a ton of military and political power. Caesar had crossed the Rubicon with his army in 49 BC and staged a coup. He had basically attacked Rome and started the Great Roman Civil War. When that happened, and after he won, he had even more military and political power. As the years pass, Caesar introduces more and more reforms, and he gains more and more power. In fact, he starts to stack the Senate with his buddies, and eventually, in 44, gets himself named Dictator Perpetuo. So why did the Senate all of a sudden want Julius Caesar dead? Well, the guy was super popular. He would walk through the streets and the citizens would chant, Rex, Rex, which means king, king. They wanted him to be king of Rome. Problem is this, if Caesar is made king of Rome, then they don't need a Senate anymore. And if they don't need a Senate, then a lot of senators are out of power and out of jobs. See why senators wouldn't want this to happen? A group of senators come together to plot Caesar's assassination. They call themselves the Liberators. And the group is led by two guys, Brutus and Cassius. In the days leading up to March 15th, the Ides of March, there were all these people telling Caesar that he shouldn't go to the Senate that day. His wife, Calpurnia, supposedly had dreams and visions that something bad would happen to him on the Ides. There were all these rumors swirling around Rome that there was some plot against him. But when the Ides of March arrive, who should show up at his door but Brutus? Brutus says, Caesar, what are you doing? You're really going to listen to your wife's dreams or some idle gossip in the streets? Let's go to the Senate. So Caesar pulls himself away from Calpurnia, who's begging him to stay, and together he and Brutus start toward the Senate. According to the historian Plutarch, Julius Caesar had been warned by a seer that something bad was going to happen to him on the Ides of March. So when Julius Caesar and Brutus are walking towards the Senate, he actually sees the seer. He turns to him and he says, the Ides have come, by which he basically means, and I'm still here. And the seer looks at him and says, yeah, but they're not over yet. The night before, one of Caesar's friends named Mark Antony had heard about the plot to kill him. So Mark Antony is rushing to try and warn Caesar about what's going to happen. But the senators get to him first. They pull him into the theater of Pompeii, they surround him, and before Caesar knows what's going on, they've got their daggers drawn. They start stabbing him. They stab him and stab him. Caesar, he falls to the floor, he tries to escape, but there's blood running into his eyes and he can't see to get away. And the senators just keep stabbing and stabbing, 23 times in total. Shakespeare wrote that as Caesar died, he turned to Brutus, the guy that had betrayed him more than anybody, and said, Et tu, Brute, meaning, you too, Brutus? Historians don't really think this was ever actually said, but the sentiment remains the same. The guy's surrounded by people he thought were his friends and allies, and he's dying on the Senate floor. Afterward, the conspirators march through Rome, chanting at the top of their lungs, triumphant, People of Rome, we are once again free. But Rome is silent. There's no parade. The conspirators disband, and Julius Caesar's body is left on the Senate floor until 3 common slaves come and take him back to Calpurnia. After Caesar's death, Rome fell back into civil war. This time, it was between Mark Antony and Octavius, Caesar's heir, fighting against Brutus and Cassius. This would eventually lead to another civil war between Mark Antony and Octavius themselves. Eventually, Octavius wins and starts calling himself Caesar Augustus. This is the transition from Roman Republic to Roman Empire. Now, as academics and students of history, we don't make judgments as to who was right and who was wrong. Instead, I'll leave you with somebody else's opinion, a contemporary quote about the death of Julius Caesar and the rise of the Roman Empire. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. This has been Extra Credit. Assassination of Julius Caesar, he didn't last long.